What's going on, guys? It's fight season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about why Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, will become the featherweight GOAT. Right now, that is either Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, one of those three. And I know Jose Aldo kind of is higher on the GOAT leaderboards because what he has done inside the bantamweight division as well. But if you look at those three fighters, I truly think that Ilia Topuria is going to go out there and show everyone inside the UFC why he is going to be the next GOAT within the UFC featherweight division. He is so well-rounded in every category, and I kind of want to break down why Ilia Topuria's game will translate to fighting every single fighter in that division and win with ease, considering that he has so many different aspects, so many different dimensions, and so many different little kinks and quirks that he can use in these fights and ultimately get the decision, or like he's been doing recently, the knockout win. Topuria is an absolute dangerous fighter, and I think that he genuinely has every single skill to become the featherweight GOAT. But if you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always notified about future UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, let's jump right into the video talking about why Ilia Topuria will become the featherweight GOAT. Now, Ilia Topuria is just coming off his first title defense of his UFC featherweight reign, where he beat Alexander Volkanovski to gain the title and also beat Max Holloway to retain the title. And Ilia Topuria, in my opinion, has showed enough in these past two fights, and mainly in his past four fights, to allow me to be comfortable enough to say that he will become the featherweight GOAT. When you look at the landscape of the land, the GOATs inside the UFC featherweight division, we have Jose Aldo, who's now down at bantamweight and older in his career, Alexander Volkanovski, who got KO'd by Ilia Topuria, and Max Holloway, who also got KO'd by Ilia Topuria. All these guys are incredible fighters, and Ilia was able to go in there and beat the two most relevant featherweight champions. And when I mean relevant, I just mean in the featherweight division right now, because Aldo was there in the featherweight division a very long time ago. But you look at the fights that Ilia Topuria has had with both Volkanovski and both Holloway, and those fights weren't even close in some aspects of them. Ilia Topuria, in that Volk fight, did lose the first round, but in that second round, it was pretty apparent that he was hunting his prey that entire fight, using that extreme power that he possesses. Ilia may be the pound-for-pound hardest puncher within the UFC. It's either him or Alex Pereira, and even though Pereira's at light heavyweight, Ilia Topuria still has that nuclear option down in the featherweight division. He was able to cut off the cage very good, using his IQ, which is one of his strongest aspects in that, to ultimately get the KO finish over Volkanovski, but then throw someone in there with an iron chin like Max Holloway. What is Topuria going to do? He's going to have to grapple, and he did use that in the first round against Holloway, but Topuria showed that his power is actually unreal, KOing Holloway with a left hook, being the first person to not only KO him, but to knock him down as well. But I think the big reason that Ilia Topuria is going to become the greatest featherweight of all time, because I look down the rankings, and there is no person who can beat him right now in one of the most stacked divisions in the organization, and that is due to how well-rounded Ilia Topuria is. Ilia is going to be able to defend, knock out, submit, wrestle, outlast all of these different guys inside the division. You got the grapplers, namely Brian Ortega, Aljamain Sterling, and Movsar Evloev. You got the strikers, which are Yair Rodriguez, Arnold Allen, and Diego Lopez. I'm going to throw him in that category, even though he's an amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, but he's had kind of a run in the striking department. Ilia Topuria is going to beat all those guys. And the two toughest guys he's already beat, that being the most well-rounded fighter in the featherweight division right now, and Volkanovski having that wrestling and striking game, but with no chin, and Max Holloway being one of the best strikers in featherweight history, but you know, he doesn't have that grappling game to go in there and combat and really defeat someone like Topuria. And a lot of these guys have gone in there to try to wrestle Topuria, namely Bryce Mitchell. Mitchell is a great grappler. He's beat Dan Ige using his grappling, and he's had a lot of different opponents in the octagon, but he went in there undefeated versus undefeated, going up there versus Ilia Topuria, and he actually got submitted on the ground and thrown around like a rag doll. He's got that farmer strength. He's from Arkansas, but genuinely, Bryce Mitchell is a very good fighter in the featherweight division, and Ilia Topuria was able to reroute kind of that going up into the top 5 and propelling him into that Josh Emmett fight. But then you look at his masterclass on the feet versus Emmett. He showed that he can beat one of the best power punchers in the UFC. Emmett is another guy who possibly is pound for pound hardest hitter in the organization, and Ilia Topuria was able to evade the punches, be able to set up shots quickly, grapple when he needs to, and ultimately go to a 5-round decision with one of the toughest featherweights of all time in Josh Emmett. You know, I look at Ilia Topuria, and I think his biggest asset Yes, he's got the duality. A great stand-up game, one of the best pocket boxers in the organizations. Also has got some good leg kicks, but also he has got some of the best Greco-Roman wrestling ground game behind him as well, which makes him for one of the hardest fighters. But I think the thing that really allows him to excel so much within the UFC's octagon is how smart he is and of how well he's able to see everything come back in his direction. Ilia Topuria is just a fighter, and what I mean by that is he just has that sense for fighting that not a lot of people have in the octagon. He can kind of judge things very well. He's able to use not a pristine eye to look at everything to fully allow him to figure out, identify, and ultimately throw back at some of the toughest strikers inside the organization. Ilia Topuria has beat the best featherweights thought to be inside the organization already, and he did that using his brains rather than his actual strength. Like that Volkanovski fight, he just cut off the cage perfectly to where Volk would have to initiate in a pocket boxing exchange with him. Topuria knew he was going to win that one. Against Max Holloway, he was kind of trying to get Max Holloway, trying to feel him out, trying to get everything. And as Max Holloway started jabbing in, moving in closer, Topuria understood that he could land one shot and send him to the ground. And I think that that is Topuria's easily his biggest thing that he possesses in the octagon is really the situational awareness to understand everything that's going on at hand. Not a lot of fighters have that ability to fully grasp what's going on with themselves inside the octagon, but knowing what their opponent is going to do at all time. Fighting someone like Volkanovski or Holloway are both very sporadic, erratic opponents that really can do some things that are uncharacteristic in the octagon, but Topuria is ready for all that. He always keeps a high guard. He's always protecting himself, and because that boxing style is so technically perfect, he can keep it super high because when he throws, it always goes back to where it returns no matter the situation. Ilia Topuria is going to have one of the best featherweight runs the UFC has ever seen. Like I said, I look at his opponents that are currently in front of him. He's probably going to fight the winner of Diego Lopez versus Alexander Volkanovski next. Then he could possibly fight someone like Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling, even a Bryce Mitchell, Josh Emmett, someone like that down the line. And I don't see anyone beating Ilia Topuria in the featherweight division. He has the best striking game or pocket boxing game in the organization right now. There is no person who can stand there and trade and bang with Ilia Topuria without getting knocked out. And a lot of those guys in that organization or in that division would have to do that to win. But the few who could go in there and grapple, namely Diego Lopez, Aljamain Sterling, Movsar Evloev, I do think would also get overpowered on the ground because Ilia is kind of shorter. He's got a stocky base, and he's one of the best fundamental wrestlers inside the organization as a whole. Ultimately, Ilia Topuria understands that the sky is the limit for him, and genuinely, he will become one of the best UFC fighters to ever fight within the organization very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section about this take that Ilia Topuria will become the greatest featherweight in UFC history, considering that his featherweight title run has started with a victory over Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, with beating the likes of Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell on the way up, is some of the best wins that you could get inside the featherweight division. Volkanovski and Holloway have barely lost in the division, and Holloway's only lost to Volkanovski, and Volkanovski hasn't lost to anyone. And Topuria going in there to beat both of them in the featherweight division was probably the biggest statement win you could say, because that means the new generation is coming in and cleaning out the old. Now, there are some fighters like Diego Lopez, Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling, possibly a Yair or a Brian Ortega if Ortega doesn't move up, but I truly do think that Ilia Topuria would dismantle any fighter in his path because of how genuinely special he is, not only on the stand-up, but also on the ground in any situation. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.